Hello and welcome back, Eddie Radosevich. George Stoya here, a Friday in the Scoop Studios. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. Big day. A bunch of Oklahoma players in it. We talked about it on the Unofficial 40 this week. Welcome back to the Around the Quarter, taking your questions from the Crimson Quarter. And I guess give it a little bit more context than just replying to it on the message board. The biggest community for Oklahoma athletics, the Crimson Quarter, $1 to join right now if you want to do so. I'm sure that everybody out there knows about it on the YouTube page. Welcome in, George. How are we? Happy Friday to you.
Big Friday. Chet back.
Back. Big day for the
tonight.
Oklahoma City Thunder, the Raptors on Friday night. And then I'm almost more excited about tomorrow night. I don't know what the plan is with Chet, if they're going to let him play. But Memphis,
Grizzlies.
big game. Like third in the West right now.
Huge game. And then Sunday, Super Bowl. So
Super Bowl.
Should be a good weekend.
Yeah, big. And it kind of started on Thursday, right? With the softball team opening up with two wins out in San Diego.
Two exciting
It was
wins.
a hell of a win
game.
on, I guess it would have been Thursday, like late night in the second game over San Diego State. Think they're probably going to be in the NCAA tournament or expected to be in the NCAA tournament, having won the last three Mountain West titles. So good start there and a good win for Jenny Baranczyk as well. I know we'll talk about it on the Hoops Report, but kind of almost improbable with Reagan Beers out with a sickness on Thursday in, where the hell were they? Ole Miss.
Yeah, and look, Ole Miss is a good team. I mean, they were 6-3 in conference, 16-5 on the season. So to go on the road and beat that team without Reagan Beers, I think is a pretty impressive win.
Big day for Oklahoma men's basketball on Saturday morning, hosting the number 4 team in the country in Tennessee. It'll be good to get Rick Barnes back in the Lloyd Noble Center. It's been a minute, I bet, since he's been here.
What kind of crowd do you think will be there on Saturday?
I bet it'll be a good crowd.
What time's tip?
It'll be good. 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Which isn't bad. We'll get done, get into Saturday evening and the Thunder game, all that kind of stuff. Good games on Saturday throughout the SEC as well. So, all right, let's start here. We talked about it a little bit on the I guess we didn't talk about it. We were going to get to the spring game stuff, but first, a question about coaches' salaries and the revenue sharing that's going to be coming about. This from Rush 2112 Sooner. I don't think we'll see anything in terms of ebbing salaries until the House settlement kicks in and universities see the revenue essentially cut in half to be paid to the players. Only then will schools truly feel the crunch. But as Josh noted, the Ohio States and Texas A&Ms of the world will never be limited due to BMD, big money donors, funding their every desire. Now there will come a time where the Big Two create a super conference and install some guardrails that might include a cap on coaches' salaries. Maybe. It's stupid AF to give out salaries like that. See the BV situation. Even with Texas A&M's bankroll, I'm sure paying out Jimbo's remaining salary probably still stung, George.
Yeah, I think it's, Ryan Day's contract certainly is interesting. Now, he just won a national title, so I think that, he's probably worth it, I would guess. But I'm sure there's also some Ohio State fans, I kind of jokingly tweeted as well, what's the buyout going to look like when they lose to Michigan again next year? Again, that's kind of joking around.
And for a little bit of background here, Ryan Day got a brand new contract with Ohio State coming off the national championship. $12.5 million total annual compensation through the 2031 season.
I mean, that buyout's got to be massive. But
maybe somewhere well north of even what Jimbo was getting.
Yeah, and I know Josh was in that thread kind of talking about, well, Ohio State has a lot of money and all of that, and that's true, and I agree with Josh that you're not going to see this slow down. You're going to see coaches continue to get these kind of monster contracts, but it does put the schools in a very tough bind if Ryan Day were to, flame out or to not, look, Ohio State, as good as they were this last year, there's going to be a lot of questions about them next year. So
replacing a defensive coordinator, replacing an offensive coordinator. Obviously, they made the move with Brian Hartline being elevated, basically.
But I do think, to Rush Sooner's point there on the board, at some point these schools are going to reach a tipping point.
Sure.
Like even the most wealthy schools, Ohio State's, Texas A&M. You saw Texas Tech, be able to keep their GM today. They're gonna. I mean, I'm not saying they're gonna just run out of money, but like some of the money that we're talking about is crazy. Like I don't know how these universities
you're talking about
are going to
paying,
operate.
Some of these head coaches over $8 million or whatever it's going to be a year. to get into like that top 5 or whatever,
yeah,
you're going to have to be paying an offensive tackle $4 million possibly.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I don't know where the money's going to come from.
Sure.
Like you still have to fund a school, a university at the end of the day.
Well, do you though?
I mean,
you probably do.
And a place like Ohio State,
and I know that Kerry would bring this up. Like university presidents probably have more say than we realize, and they're going to have a say in all of this as well, and how the money's being distributed.
Yeah, and they don't make a ton of money compared to what these coaches are making. So I don't know, it's crazy. And then you look at NFL contracts, you're seeing NFL head coaches and NFL assistants, their salaries for a long time were lesser than what college coaches are getting paid. They're actually now increasing to be closer to some of the college coaches. I know some of the money that's come out on Ben Johnson.
I was going to say 5 years, $65 million. That's about 13 and a half a year.
That's extremely high for an NFL head coach. At least, I know when I covered the Broncos, Vic Fangio was only making, I want to say around $4 million per year as the Broncos head coach, and that was just a few years ago.
Sure.
And now Sean Payton, I think Sean Payton's making like $15 million for the Broncos. So it's totally changed, and I think it's I don't know, it's going to be interesting to follow because, like I said, the Ohio States and Texas A&Ms of the world Texas can maybe pay some of these massive contracts for coaches, but eventually, like, what are the other schools going to do? I guess to pay their coaches, and then also just. Ryan Day, that's great. He's getting paid $12.5 million. What if he only got paid $10 million? You could use the other $2.5 towards, NIL or
sure.
whatever.
The USA Today reported that Sean Payton
is it $18 million?
He's currently making around $18 million a year.
That's crazy, man.
It's good money if you can get it.
Yeah.
Especially with the success that came along with it, and with Bo Nix. It's going to be interesting going into his second year. All right, the second question that we got from the Crimson Quarter this week, we talked about this a little bit on the Unofficial 40. You can hear that right here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Spring game, this is from Hooded for Iron. Spring game served no purpose at this point except to make to the market the value of players to other teams. Might as well call it the Spring Combine. And yeah, I think that this is something that has certainly gotten into the college football talking point world here over the last week. Matt Rule up at Nebraska has basically come out and said they're not going to have a spring game in Lincoln this year in fear of it's basically you're putting things on tape that everybody else could see, and then that spring portal opens. It's set to open this year on April 16th, which would be the weekend coming out of the spring game. There is concern there, I'm sure, for a sport that was already extremely paranoid, now is going to be even more paranoid with things like this coming about.
Yeah, I think it's a little dramatic from Nebraska to be like, people are watching their spring game and stealing players because of that. Like, I don't think that that's necessarily is what's happening. Like, there's tampering. There's going to be tampering no matter, whether you play the spring game or not. So I don't think that's just going to disappear by not having a spring game. I think it's more so, with the longer season and everything that goes on and the transfer portal in the spring, like, I think it would just be easier to not have one for some of these schools. Now, from a fan's perspective, I think there is some value, especially at a school like Oklahoma where they do draw 50,000 or more people to the game and you make a ton of money. The school probably makes a few million, I would assume, off the spring game just based on ticket sales, concessions. I think they do their big, equipment sale, right? Sure. All of those things. So I think from a university perspective, it's different from a football program. I saw a story this week from about Texas and Steve Sarkisian talking about it, and he's more worried about, hey, we just played 15, 16, 17 games, like turning around and having a spring game or having as many practices in the spring can be a lot on kids, especially at that age. So I think moving to more like an NFL model where maybe you have a rookie mini camp for the incoming freshmen and portal guys, and then you have in June you have a full mini camp like the NFL does. Basically, just do it like OTAs and exactly how the NFL has. And I mean, you're already kind of going to that model in terms of paying guys. Might as well do that. But I think also just getting rid of the spring transfer portal would fix some of these issues. But I don't know. It's really interesting. And I know from Oklahoma's perspective, they're planning on having their spring game this year. That's not changing. But if you told me it's the last one they had, I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's definitely some conversations behind the scenes of how valuable is this and is there a different alternative? I know OSU, they haven't had a spring game for a few years.
Right.
What they do instead is, I think they're opening maybe a practice or two to the fans, and then it's like a meet and greet afterwards with the players, which I think is a great idea. You could pay $10, $15, go to an open practice on Owen Field, and then maybe afterwards get some autographs from the players if you want it,
right?
or
I know
whatever.
They've made Meet the Sooners Day at the beginning of August or at the beginning of the season.
You could do it in the spring.
It's more into like a fundraiser almost for One Oklahoma or whatever collective wants to be involved. And I think that at the end of the day, getting money back into the players' pockets or the university's pockets is going to be the ultimate probably goal at the end of the tunnel. But it's going to be interesting. I know Steve Sarkisian has commented on it. He's kind of almost put it out there that they're looking at what they're going to do for the orange-white game, even in Austin this year. I think you're going to start seeing this more and more, and it's probably, in a game of college football with as much imitation as being done, if one school does it, it's going to open the door for a bunch of other of these schools, and especially big schools if a Nebraska is going all the way in. Because Nebraska, like Oklahoma, one of those schools that they're going to pack 70,000 into Memorial Stadium.
I mean, they have the biggest spring game every year.
Sure.
So if you told me in 5 years no one's playing a spring game anymore, that would not surprise me.
I just hope that there's still going to be something there, because you're obviously going to have spring ball, but I do like the idea of having a rookie minicamp for freshmen, or
I think it'd be great.
Some type of something out there, and then you'd obviously have to figure out what you want to do with spring ball. But I kind of like your idea and what you said on the Unofficial 40, and having some type of whether it be a mini camp or whatever you want to call it during the summer to kind of just keep everybody connected. And because I think for the passionate fan base, like on the Crimson Quarter, wherever, you want to be involved. You want that information 12 months a year, regardless.
Yeah, and what's funny is like the NFL, they have during their mini camp and training camp, I don't know if it's mini camp, they don't have open to the public, but training camp, like 90% of it is open to the public.
Sure.
Like you can come and watch, and you can buy tickets and go. And I would love to see college football do that. I just don't know if the paranoia will allow that.
Sometimes I feel like as much as people around this country love college football likes to give them the middle finger, which is unfortunate. And that kind of goes into like the bowl games and stuff, even the playoff stuff, like asking just the generic, normal, casual fan to spend, $50,000 to basically travel across the country to go to all of these games. It's crazy. It's becoming tougher and tougher. It is revenue over paranoia, what Kerry said in our ear, and it is factually true. We stand with the fan. All right, let's move to the hoops bubble. Oklahoma, obviously, with a big game coming up on Saturday. Tennessee into town. ESPN Bubble Watch gives us less than a 50% chance of making it. This from Sooner BMS MD. And, I think that right now you're 3-6 in conference play, right, George? And you're going to have to find a way to steal a couple games on the inward bound into, rest of the month in February, and then obviously at the beginning of the month in March.
Yeah, I asked you yesterday on the Unofficial 40, gun to your head, do you think they'll make the NCAA tournament? And
I'm going to lead to the optimistic side.
I also think they will, but they have to. We went through the schedule yesterday on the podcast, and they're going to have to. One, you got to take care of your business on home court. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to do that tomorrow, but if you like I said yesterday, if they win tomorrow against Tennessee,
it kind of flips everything back to the
I feel
good
confident
side
that they're definitely getting in.
I think it does help that Oklahoma is not, as it stands right now, as we're taping this on February 7th, beginning of February, they're on the good side of the bubble right now. In fact, I think that depending on what projection you use, somewhere in that 8-9 line, and it's going to be ultimately important to win the games, as you said, to take care of business. And then if you could steal a game against the Tennessee tomorrow, and God willing, it's going to be another tough matchup, obviously. Missouri is going to be tough in Columbia. They're going to both be tough. They played extremely well on the road. You saw what they did in Knoxville.
They're going to have to win a road
Wednesday.
game.
Yeah, and so the road games right now, at Missouri next Wednesday, at Florida on Tuesday, February 18th.
That's
at
awesome.
Ole Miss on Saturday, March 1, and then at Texas on March 8th to end the season.
It's crazy to say maybe, but Texas feels like the most realistic win out of that group just right now.
Sure, and that's because Missouri, obviously, and the way that they've played. I think Dennis Gates done an extremely good job with that. A top 10 team in Florida, and then a team in Ole Miss that's hovering in and out of the top 25. They're 25 right now, but we'll see where they end up. We saw what they did to Kentucky on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
So
you think 7, though? If they get to seven conference wins?
7, you feel good. You feel like, okay, we have the resume to be able to go show the committee. Are they going to accept it? You get to 8, you're in. Yeah. 8 and 10 is going to get you in no matter what, and I think that you'd probably elevate yourself.
What about the conference tournament? Like if you're let's say they're 6 and 12 and they win a couple games in the conference tournament.
I think it's going to be
really close.
That's where you're biting. You're praying and hoping your name's called. A position that Oklahoma unfortunately has been in the first 3 years under Porter Moser, and it would go a long way if you could knock off a number 4 Tennessee tomorrow. Yeah. I don't want to put all the eggs in that basket because they're going to be underdogs, but
court storming.
And then obviously, if you do beat a Missouri, you can't throw up all over yourselves and lose to a LSU at home or a Mississippi State who's still in the top 25, which is going to be a tough matchup. So I don't know. It's going to be one of those things. You just hope that you don't look back on the A&M loss or the Texas loss.
I think, you're definitely going to be looking back at that probably. But you got to win. I look at it and you say you got to win the LSU and the Mississippi State game at home, and probably even the Missouri game at home.
Sure.
Like if you win those 3, then you put yourself in a position. Okay, just win one of the others.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough. And right now, if the SEC tournament started today, I believe Oklahoma would be playing in that first round of games. That first day against Arkansas is who they would be playing right now, and they already beat them once. Which coming out of the OU Arkansas win. Arkansas is starting to play a little bit better, has wins over Kentucky as well as Texas on the road. Kind of kicked Texas' ass on Tuesday night. Or Wednesday night. I think it was Wednesday night. All right, we digress. Let's go to it was good to have our good friend Dillon Gabriel back in studio. You can watch the Family Business with him alongside Drake Stoops, as well with the host Isaac Stoops and Joe Castiglione Jr. It was a good catch-up. You can watch that here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. But what do we got here from Bob's Pinky? Let's just start with the question inside Visor 7, why the guy was a good QB and even better person from all accounts. This is what Bob's Pinky says. I think this is a little bit of a troll. I'm not going to simp like OP over a guy on his second of 3 stops who won 0 bowl games, 0 championships, and 1 big game. Yeah, he's a good dude, and I wish him well, but he's a jag, just a guy to the message board posters who does nothing for me. I personally am not a huge fan that he's back using our facilities. I just think it's weird. I think is weird, and I almost said the F word. I don't know if we can beep that out. You're weird, Bob's Pinky. Just be more miserable. Yeah, of course, the town troll Riv OG certainly liked it. I don't know why people get off at being miserable, and I'm one of those people. I like being miserable to a certain extent. I'm not that miserable, though. I think everybody loves DG.
Why do people care? I just don't understand.
Why do they care why he came back to the university? Because they're doing things that those people never did.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like the guy had a heck of a career here at OU and did a lot of really good things.
Let's think back to the time period that was in, too. And we celebrated it because he was the guy that wanted to sign up when Caleb left to go out west. Yeah. Like, I think that role, whatever that may be, it served a purpose to come in and play quarterback, and he played pretty damn well, all things considered.
I just don't understand, saying he's just a guy. I don't know if Dillon's going to make it in the NFL, but he was a pretty damn good quarterback. To say he was just a guy, I think is, not fair to Dillon. And
it's inaccurate too. Yeah. I mean, the guy, he has the most touchdown passes in the history of college football.
Yeah, and people are mad. He's like, well, he left OU. It's like, well, the plan was always to leave OU after last season.
And he goes into detail on the Family Business this week, just to put it back out there for the people that are still convinced that Oklahoma forced him out of Norman.
Yeah, no one forced him out of Norman. Look, he had to make a decision for himself, and the plan was always for him to leave. And when Jeff Lebby left, there was no reason for him to come back to Oklahoma, and he went to Oregon and had a fantastic season. So I just don't understand the idea of ragging on a guy like that who really came in, to the program at a time that they absolutely needed him, like you said.
And we all know if, the universe was different and he would have stayed at Oklahoma, he'd be very, very celebrated for staying and sticking and loyalty and all that kind of stuff, which, I'm not going to apologize. Love Dillon Gabriel, always going to be cheering for him, and I hope he has a pretty good career in the NFL. Hopefully he does well.
I would also say the majority of OU fans thought that Dillon leaving was a good thing and that Jackson was going to be a great player.
Hand up. I think we told him that.
Yeah.
It was a point and a moment in time where, hindsight always 20/20, but it didn't work out. You took a little bit of a gamble and just moving everything forward with Jackson Arnold, and he's obviously not in Norman anymore. Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. We do have softball. We do have baseball as well. Met up with Skip Johnson and some of the Oklahoma baseball players, Kyson and Malachi Witherspoon, as well as Easton Carmichael. You can see that entire Media Day interview on SoonerScoop.com's editorial page. What do we got for baseball, though? I think we're talking about the rotation. This from it's AD, not AP. Retweet. Curious on your thoughts on the rotation, your guesses to how they'll handle it week into versus midweek, and curious who you expect to be called on out of the bullpen. I think you got Friday and Saturday. That's pretty much written in ink. I think, obviously Kyson Witherspoon's going to be your Friday night guy. Malachi Witherspoon's going to be your Saturday night guy. I think the big question mark is what they're going to do on Sundays. And good news is you have a couple of options. Cade Crossland, he was a guy that came in out of JUCO, out of Weatherford College, I believe, has one of the best changeups in the sport of college baseball. Of the draftable arms in 2025, he has the best changeup per Baseball America. I think he's had a really good fall. I think he's had a really good spring leading into the regular season, and I think it's going to be a question mark of, is it going to be Cade Crossland? Is it going to be Cam Johnson, the 6'6" left-hander out of LSU, who has been fantastic from all accounts? We'll see. I think they will probably kind of juggle that. Maybe even see a Grant Stevens, maybe see a Dylan Tate, possibly more so on the back end for Dylan Tate. But they have options, and I think that when you talk about this the rotation going into 2025, I simply put, they could end up being one of the better groups in the country.
What do you think? Because I feel good about their pitching.
Yeah,
I think the pitching is going to be fantastic.
Kyson Witherspoon, he could solidify himself as a top 15 type talent.
The bats. Where are you at with the bats? Is there concern? Is it just a hey, wait and see? I mean, I feel like under Willits, they've found something offensively. Are you just one of those?
You're gonna have to piece it together. Jackson Willits, the only returning player from last year's team that had double-digit home runs. He had 10. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see where the pop comes, but I think that you can manufacture runs. They have a lot of speed, especially in the outfield. I think maybe you go back a little bit more to what we saw, maybe with the 2022 team that went to Omaha that did a lot of small ball. They got some big hits. They had power when they needed it, but you were using your speed on the base pass particularly. And Dawson Willis, I'm going to do that all year. Jackson Willis at short, Dawson Willis at third base. There's been a lot of talk about him with a little bit more power than maybe they were expecting. We'll see what they get from first base. Need Easton Carmichael to have another good year. He had a exceptional year as a sophomore last year, and that led over into the summers that these guys had. Jackson Willis went up to the Cape, had a good year or good summer. Easton Carmichael, same. Scott Mudler, same. So we'll see.
Picked 11th in the preseason poll. Where do you think they finish though? Like, if you
I think it'll be higher than 11th, but I think that anywhere from I think 5 different teams got first place votes, and those 5 teams.
This is the SEC.
Yeah, you'll find them in the top 10 of the country. So
crazy.
I would say probably high side.
Like 8th, maybe.
Oh, I was thinking like 6, something like that. Maybe somewhere 6 to 8. Maybe like all things go really, really well. Maybe you sneak into the top 5.
Yeah,
but that would be going really, really high side. So I think they'll finish higher than 11th. But I'd be a little bit surprised if they finished higher than 6th.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of teams. I mean, what's that? 6 teams right there.
Yeah. Now, when do they start? When
next Friday. So a week from today, February 14th, 3-game series with Lehigh, and then it kind of gets ramped up a little bit. They go down and play in that Round Rock tournament where Virginia's down there, as well as Oregon State. Both those teams in the top 10 right now. So
we'll kind of find out how good they are.
Yeah, and I think
the thing with baseball, you have to remind yourself.
It's a long year.
It's a long season.
Just like the conversations that we were having with softball. They're going to lose some games at some point here in this first month. You got to have perspective on everything, and especially with softball.
How many young players they have. It's crazy.
Losing a class that was, simply put, and we talked about it yesterday,
of all time.
The greatest class of all time. I mean, there was a 4-year period there where you just knew they were going to deliver.
Yeah.
And, much like those offenses for football in 17, 18, 19, nothing is normal what they did over the last 4 years, winning 4 consecutive national championships.
No, and I do like OU's young players on softball.
Sure.
I think that some of these...
And I think that like some of the women that they came in and got out of the transfer portal too.
The pitcher from Louisiana last night, she was good.
Landry was Sam Landry was awesome last night.
Yeah.
So we'll see. A lot to be excited about, though, for both those Diamond sports. We'll get the Stickball report fired back up possibly as early as next week with Oklahoma softball coming out of a 6-game schedule, obviously 2-0, 4 more in San Diego, and then the weekend to come next week for OU baseball. All right, let's close it out here. A good reminder from the Crimson Corner about the merch. And all you got to do, Carrie, I need a new shirt, but I can't find the merch button, not here on U40.com. Soonerscoopstore.com. Soonerscoopstore.com. Got plenty of shirts and everything. There it is right behind us. That we have some shirts still left over, and I will package those up and get those sent out if you get those orders in. So I think we're sold out of flags, but a couple of good items still. I still like
they're
the shirt
sitting
that,
right behind us.
I still like the shirt that George has, and the Imperial Visor still got a good number of those as well. Get ramped up into golf season here with the Waste Management this weekend. I'm excited.
Yeah, Waste Management should be fun. But
it's one of the great tournaments of the
I actually
year.
wear my Make Lindsay Street Great Again shirt a lot.
Interesting. That was almost a Freudian slip. We would have had to blast that out there. Very
Great
good
material, though.
Yeah.
I'm holding it right here, Carrie, if you want to show it on camera.
Soonerscoopstore.com if you're interested in any of the merch that you see behind us in every show. Okay. Very good. We appreciate everybody getting those questions in. It's been a good week here on the Crimson Corner as well as Campus Corner with all the shows that we've done. And leading into the Super Bowl, who are you going with?
Eagles.
I
think that's me thinking with my heart more than my brain. I shouldn't pick against the Chiefs, but I'm going
Here's
to.
the deal. The Eagles, I think, are the better football team. But they have the maybe the best quarterback of all time to do it.
Best player in the world.
And we talked about this on the Unofficial 40. If we can just get to a point where either team, I don't care who wins, but if we can get to a point where either team is going to have a chance to go win the game in the fourth quarter around that 2-minute warning, sign me up. That's all I want on Sunday.
It's over. It's over, though, if the Chiefs get the ball back with 2 minutes left and down, however many points, 2-3 points.
You would think
it's over.
You would think that's how Pat Mahomes rolls. So good luck to all the Oklahoma Sooners, and I guess good luck to you out there. Make it through the weekend. We'll see about that. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We will talk to you next week here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel.